You're listening to The Rare Remix, a place for real conversations, practical insight, and potential solutions for parents navigating life with a new rhythm.
This may not be the life you had imagined. It's a remix.
Join us as we discuss the rare wisdom parents quietly gain, celebrate victories big and small, and look for ways to make the road ahead a little easier.
Welcome to The Rare Remix,
where we roll with it.
All right, we are here with Tami and Donnie, and they are now caregivers for Tami's youngest sister, Lori, who just celebrated turning 58. We are so thankful to have you guys. Thank you so much for being here, and we just can't wait to hear your perspectives on this rare remixed life. So do you want to share a little bit more about your family and just start us out?
Sure. Lori is my youngest sister. I'm 7 years older than her, and she is sweet. She is just adorable. She loves Elton John. She loves the Bee Gees, all things 70. Our parents passed away. My dad, 7 years ago. My mom just recently. And so Donnie and I became her guardians, and here we are. She's living with us, and, we're just taking each day, as it comes.
Yeah. And Donnie, do you want to add anything there?
She's a sweetie, and I've been around her for 40 years, so it's I love her very much. But I will say on the music part, it's she loves our kind of music from the 70s, with the exception, for some bizarre reason, she is into Barry Manilow. So I have no valid reason for that, but
hey, we like what we like.
Yes,
right.
exactly.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so with her just turning 58, do you want to share about how you celebrated and kind of what that looked like?
Well, with lots of ice cream and balloons and cards and gift cards and, just sending her to her day program where they showered her with gifts, a little trip to Kroger to pick out a treat for the whole class. And, it was just a good day. We just counted our blessings that she's lived this long and had a really great life.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so I don't think we shared that she has Rett syndrome. Yeah. And do you want to share, for listeners who maybe aren't familiar with Rett syndrome, do you want to share kind of what her diagnosis journey has looked like?
Sure. She basically was born in 1968, so there was not a diagnosis of Rett at that time. And somewhere along the lines of possibly 18 months to 2 years of age, she essentially stopped doing everything. And so my parents took her to the doctor, and essentially they met with specialists and things. And, of course, in the 60s, everybody got the classical diagnosis of mental retardation. And so I remember my mom trying to explain that to me. And, I was 7. Well, by then I was 9. And I really didn't understand that because in our family, nothing had really seemed to change on my end. And so she had a few therapists and things come to the house. And to the best of my recollection, it seemed like there was a lot of behavior modification and things like that. So it was probably, I'm going to say she was well into her 20s before she got this diagnosis.
Okay.
Her pediatrician, who is still alive and just an absolutely wonderful man, he had been at a conference and they were talking about this, syndrome or diagnoses. And he's like, that's my patient, So he talked with my parents and did some testing, and then that's how she got her diagnosis. But it was still in the 80s, and there still wasn't really much known about that. So no support groups, no, real
community.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
What was it like for you growing up? You said around 20, she finally got the Rett diagnosis. So what was it like for you between finding out that she was given this diagnosis of mental retardation to then growing up as a sibling with someone with Rett syndrome?
I don't feel like it changed per se. I guess I was glad to know that she had a diagnosis and we could put a name to it. But, it seemed like nothing really changed. My parents had their routine. I still participated in the same ways. I think it was just comfort of knowing that she wasn't tagged with something that had a negative connotation, that we could actually say she has a neurological disorder and we could learn about it.
Yeah.
So that part was good.
This is why I should let Lindsay ask the question. What was your relationship with her growing up? Did you play with her? Did we have, friends over? How were your interactions?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to say they were normal. I was not embarrassed of her. My parents I felt like they treated us all equally.
Yeah.
Our birthdays are 3 days apart. So for all those years, I was subject to Elmo and Raggedy Ann and Andy and Sesame Street birthday cakes. I never, when I was 16, I got an Elmo cake because we always celebrated together. But my friends came over. Everybody loved Lori. There didn't seem to be, that I recall, any problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask about, just so our listeners have an understanding of her challenges and how that has transpired over all of these years. Because I know at one point she was walking. Can you just share what life has looked like throughout her journey?
Well, she was walking, and she was twice the size she is now. She's really tiny now, and she made more, I think she was more verbal, wouldn't you say?
Oh, goodness,
yeah.
yes.
And she had a stroke in 2015, and we believe it to be from just unmanaged, or unknown, I shouldn't say, not unmanaged, high blood pressure. And she really, to be honest with you, shouldn't have survived that. She was not very responsive for a couple of days. And with a neurological disorder, my parents didn't know, because there would be times she'd be sleepy so they just really didn't pick up on it right away. And so she had a stroke, and then so she was not able to walk any longer. We went through therapy and things like that, but just unfortunately, that never came back.
Okay.
So.
And I will say one thing on that is the time that she spent in the facility there. It was an example, and I already knew this, but it was reassured me that her mom, just a ball of fire, and she was not going to allow Lori to stay there for very long, and also recover. She was bound and determined to feed her by mouth. She was going to get back to what it was. Just like Tami always said growing up, Karen, they told her, why don't you put her in a home? Why don't you do this? And Karen was never going to stand for that. It's just, that's how she was wired. And
yeah.
I don't
just a decision she had made.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Karen being your mom.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what did her care look like growing up? Did she do PTOT and all the therapies, or?
No, not really. There were, I remember there was a behavioral therapist that came by in a couple of times a week, but I feel like that was short-lived. My mom just did what she knew to do,
Sure.
And so there weren't therapies. There weren't, because at that time, I guess there wasn't truly really a diagnosis. So,
Yeah,
it
didn't
was
know what to do.
right.
Sure.
Right.
So interesting.
Yeah.
So your parents were, up until she had the stroke, your sister Lori could walk and talk at some points?
Well, she was more verbal. I wouldn't say she talked, but she made more sounds. She made the same types of sounds. She seemed to be, there were times where she was just very, I don't know.
She was much more emotional.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Seemed like sometimes frustration, sometimes happy, sometimes sad. There was just a lot more of that.
Yeah. And I'm sure the caregivers and your parents could pick up on what each sound was,
Yes.
just like we do with
Yeah.
Ava. But then after the stroke, she was unable to walk and lost a lot of those verbal
Yes.
cues.
Yeah. For the longest time, like Donnie said, it's really, she had just a blank stare. It was
She did.
really very sad. It's just like, you kind of we know you're in there, but that has changed, and that part has gotten, I would say she's almost back to being verbal again,
She is.
Yeah.
And-
Yeah.
So how did it change for your parents' caregiving? And then maybe you guys started to step in more then too after the stroke. If, it seems to me like they might be older at that point in 2015. And if they go from having a kid that's been able to walk and move around easily, was their daily care changed by that? And how were you interacting with that?
Well, she by then had a Hoyer. She had a wheelchair. So Lori is still actually weight bearing. So that is helpful because my parents devised a way to be able to stand her up and change your diaper.
Oh, wow.
And so that, when you're in your 70s, you look for ways to do things. So that was helpful. They had a Hoyer lift, so both of them could use that. We were more involved. We've always been involved in some way. That never really changed. We were always the ones, like if they went on trips, they loved to travel, and they went to a lot of the Buckeye games and their away trips and national championships. So we always stepped in and provided care. So I just had to learn exactly what to do with Lori, but it didn't seem like it was that difficult.
We always send our guests pre-interview questions, and it's to get you guys thinking and us thinking, and it gives us some rabbit holes to go down. You answered that it took my mom a little while to allow me to become the guardian. And I thought that was such a unique thing, and I'm sure that everyone kind of goes through it when they're having this transition, but to me it hadn't occurred that the mom is having to almost let go and allow you to step in. So can you elaborate a little on that?
Yes. Well, my mom and I, for the most part, we always worked as a team. I am a nurse, and so that was always kind of challenging because my mom looked at things from a mother's perspective, and I always had my medical eyes on. But for the most part, we worked well together. But when she knew her health was failing, it was probably time. I was doing everything anyway, going to all the appointments, talking with the doctors, and just updating my mom, which she was very satisfied with. The first time it came up, she wasn't ready for that. And then as her health was failing, she just equated it with she's not the mom anymore. And Donnie and I both reassured her, like, no, you're still her mom. We're not making decisions without you. Everything will be in place so that everybody will transition easier. And you're always going to be in charge.
Yeah.
You're the mom, and I'm still your daughter, and Lori's still your daughter. So I think once she realized that, and it just took her, just as anybody, this is her daughter. It takes you time to come to that realization, to be at peace with it. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
I imagine, just aging yourself, that presents challenges. And you had mentioned some creative solutions that they came up with, like changing her standing up. Were there other things that they had to sort of come up with or make work in some way with their aging bodies?
I don't recall, other than the standing up, that there was really anything that stood out to you.
No, not really, but I think to put it in context, they are smaller people, all of them.
Yeah.
I mean, Dwight was a relative giant at 5'6". So, but they just always made it happen. I remember when I first heard we were married coming around, mind you, Lori was probably 150.
Oh, not quite that much, maybe 120.
Okay. Sorry, Lori. But your mom was not much more than that. And to wash her hair, she'd pick her up and put her on the sink.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that is a creative way. Yeah,
absolutely.
But they always, and even Dwight knew his part. He knew, Karen was the boss. When he came to Lori, so, but he did his part, and they always made it work.
Wow.
And they weren't healthy at that point. My mom had gone through gastric cancer and had her entire stomach removed. And that was, in 2005. So, and my dad had chronic health and heart problems. So they weren't healthy people. But they just did it. Yeah.
I think this is something that we all think about as we get older and have to care for our loved ones. And it must have been a relief to know for your mom and your dad that they had you guys to help. So I wanted to ask more about just the process of becoming her caregiver and what all went into that.
Well, it was over the course of many years and many discussions. And I remember when they were probably revising their will, so somewhere in their early 70s, they formally asked us, because there were times in younger days that I was not the first choice. And thank goodness 22-year-old Tami wasn't the caregiver for Lori. But so, of course, I was always willing. And Donnie and I spoke, and he loved Lori just as much as I did. And so we decided we could do this. We weren't sure what we were committing to. I mean, other than we were going to take care of her. And so they put this in the will. And my parents, especially my dad, it was very thorough, very meticulous, painfully so. And he had the house set up in a trust so that Lori would always have a home to live in. Lori, of course, doesn't own any property or anything like that. Now we just found out he had his retirement. He worked for the government. So Lori is now getting a portion of his retirement now. So he had all these things set up and a lot of conversations, and they were happy, but he's always telling me, like, Tamerlyn, it's not as easy as you think. You know, I know you and Donnie want to do this, but I'm just going to tell you that it's a lot of challenges and a lot of stress at times, but you always think you know more than your parents. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, there was just a lot of planning, a lot of attorneys, and here we are.
And it does help to be a type A, whatever, you know, to be able to get those answers.
Yeah.
I mean, she always is able to.
Went after it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do a lot of our estate planning and such. And so we have the special needs trust and the trust and all that. And it's when we first met you guys, you know, this summer, it was so interesting to me to be like, they just went through this transition. I wonder how it was. And from both of your perspectives, I mean, we talked about how you interpreted it, but Donnie, what was it like for you when you guys took this on and decided, and now to this day, you have her living in your home now, I think?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. You think you're ready. And, of course, obviously, we've been married, it'll be 40 years next year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Been around Lori a long time. And, yeah, it's a dose of reality. It is, as you folks will know. And you think you're preparing to retire, and maybe, because we're obviously into baseball, so we got more ballparks to go to. So, yeah, to look at the big picture. But I will say my end has flowed well because I do heavy lifting, but not the kind of heavy lifting that she does. She does the phone calls, all that stuff. So it's gone well, and it's been a challenge, but mostly because I just maybe at times I just kind of I don't doubt, but I question whether things will come together, and they have. I mean, it's a blessing. Our faith is important, and it truly has come together to where, you know, we can make it all work, if that makes sense.
It does. Absolutely. It makes sense.
I was rambling, sorry.
No, that's great.
No, we get
You're
it.
very honest answers, and I love that. I wanted to ask about kind of a normal day. What does a normal day look like for you guys?
Well, I usually get up about 5 during the week because Lori has feedings at night, and I get up and flush her tube and then hope I don't wake her up so that she'll sleep another hour or so before I get her up for her workshop. And she goes on to her day program, and then she comes home. And when she gets home, there's lots of flushing her tube and possibly a supplement depending on how she ate. And then there's dinner time, and then we transition right into bedtime. On the weekends, we're a little more flexible. We've been trying to go to church, so it takes a lot of planning to get everybody to where they need to be and be on time. But for the most part, I think it flows pretty well. Donnie, he's always available to help me get her up or help me to change her, or he'll do the stuff that I'm not going to have time for, like feed the dog and, you know, those kinds of things. So we have a pretty good routine. I think so.
Seems like you guys have a great system worked out.
Yeah.
Because there are always chores and maintaining your house and all those other things that come alongside caregiving that I can totally appreciate, because when Brian's home, it's a lot easier than when he's traveling to do all the normal things.
And I saw that you guys said one of the things that worked out extremely well, you guys are happy to have, is the accessible van.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah, that was great. In January, we started talking about it. We were, I think, just settling in for the last couple of months. And we had been living at my mother's house. because everything was handicap accessible there, and we weren't sure what we were going to do. Are we going to sell our house? Are we going to stay here? We're debating all these things. And I said, I know you're probably not going to want to go in debt, but one thing would be really helpful is we could have a van, because I feel like my life would be, just be more normal. Like if I could take her somewhere, or I know that I could get to the doctor, because she had like a little ride share, and that was great. But, we'd oftentimes have to wait for them to come back and get us. And the last straw was like I waited 2 hours. And, now she's not eating, and now she needs changed. And so he's like, yeah, let's do it. So we actually bought a van online, and they delivered it to us.
I never thought I'd ever do that in my life. Buy something online.
Yes.
But it worked out.
It did, it worked out perfectly. Yeah.
And so where do you guys like to go? You mentioned church, but where else does Lori enjoy going in the new van?
I mean, she seems to love it, just driving around. I think it's awesome. And, of course, obviously, we're planning trips. We did plan a trip down to my brother's down in Tennessee, but then we weren't able to go. And I couldn't, tore my hamstring. So, but we're planning on going to ball games. And, she does well. It's amazing to me that they did all this all those years. But she could walk to the car, and you could help her get in. It's a little bit different scenario now. It's
new challenges.
Yeah. She's been out to restaurants several times. Just wherever we go. Like we had a family member that was ill, so we took her up to the hospital to visit. She just, whatever we need to do now, we know she can come right with us.
Absolutely.
So that's good.
We were just out at the RET conference in Minneapolis, and we were sitting down, and there's a dad that brought his daughter, who was 35, 36.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And he brought her alone solo, and she could get up and she could walk around. And someone asked, that's so amazing that you do this. Like, what all do you do? And he goes, well, we're going golfing tomorrow. Anything that I do, she does. It's just like a normal kid. Just take her anywhere.
Wow.
That's really inspiring.
Yes, it is. That is awesome.
Well, I just want to jump back to kind of the transition time really quick, just for our listeners who might be thinking about all of this.
Sure.
Is there anything that you would give advice about, or something that you would say to every family kind of looking into all these decisions? Any words of wisdom about all of that?
Well, I think to have honest conversations and discussions, with whomever it is that you're wanting to possibly be your guardian, and to talk about it. It's very hard. I think just getting things in place, and, being kind to yourself and having grace, and just knowing that it's hard, and there's a lot of feelings and emotions, and, just trying to get through it the best you can.
Yeah. I noticed that I'm a process and nuts and bolts, but I noticed that you said that the judge allowed you to stay as her, we call it structured family care in Indiana.
Okay.
Ohio's a little different. How were those transitions? Because a lot of people think, well, if I plan this all out, I don't have to deal with the legal system. I don't have to deal with any of this. And it sounded like you had to deal with it a little bit.
Yes.
Even though it's planned out. So can you walk me through that?
Well, I think I mostly dealt with it because my mom gave up her guardianship before she passed away.
Okay.
So that was why I had to go to court, was my understanding. My mom had to resign as her guardian, and I became, the successor. And so it was very easy. In fact, we did it on Zoom, and I told him that Lori has a waiver, and so that I was already an independent provider and a paid provider through her waiver. And I asked if I could stay on as that, because I had to retire from my job, and that this was a source of income. And so you just have to let the judge know that that's what you're going to do. And so he was able to grant me that. And so that's made life, easier as we're retiring. I certainly didn't have to lose, income. And then the guardianship was in place. And so when things started happening, that was one piece I didn't have to worry about getting to court and, going through the legalness of that, because it was already in place.
There's so much to it, and we're not going to be able to unpack it all.
Yeah.
But I want to have everything all my I's dotted and T's crossed.
Yes.
And I think what I'm hearing, and the more and more you look into it, is you can plan as much as you want, but there's always going to be those little pieces that whoever you're transferring to, whether you're alive or have passed, is going to have to deal with. And so it's very interesting. You said you brought in attorneys, and it sounds like you had a lot of help and guidance through that. Was that worth it? Would you recommend that to everyone?
Yes, I think so. I think it gives you a much clearer picture, and I think it's just more official, and everybody kind of knows what's expected and what you're kind of up against.
You're not missing anything.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, and I think that the one thing is, not that I was at these meetings with her, but whenever she'd go to a different step, it was always helpful, the information she already had. Like, I was in front of a judge, I did this, I did that. It always helped each step, when someone would say, well, did you do this? Yes, I did that. And I think that's the key.
Yes. And I think I had mentioned too that the one struggle that I did have is, even though this all flowed pretty well, my mother was her payee for Social Security. And so that was one piece my mom wasn't willing to give up. Well, the time came when Lori's Medicaid benefits are always renewed in November. My mom passed in October. And so I was trying to get all this done. And that was the toughest piece of all this. If anybody's ever dealt with those entities, it's not uncommon. I told Donnie last night, if I had the time I spent on the phone back, I would add probably an additional 5 years to my life. You could be on hold 2 hours and then click and you're done. What happened, And I was very stressed because her benefits expired. And I could get no one to help me at Medicaid because they needed in her bank account. And I couldn't get in her bank account. They needed permission to verify funds. And so that was really, really challenging. But fortunately, that was the only piece.
Interesting. Yeah. Dealing with the government at any point is always difficult. So
Yes.
I feel your pain.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we're at a different part of the process, but always a little bit of a challenge. Well, you guys have mentioned a lot of ways that your life has shifted and been kind of remixed into this kind of new life. So I know you mentioned moving into your mom's house, and can you explain maybe like how all of this has affected your present, your personal life and your dreams and all of the things you thought would happen?
Well, I think it's been challenging, but we've made it work. The biggest struggle for both of us, definitely, or at least I think, was we were living away from our home. And I had been doing that for a couple of years because my mom was sick and my sister was sick. And so I was living there most of the time. And then we were still living there. And to be honest, we just wanted to go home. We were maintaining 2 houses, paying for 2 homes. My mother's house was paid off, but the utilities still have to be paid,
And
taxes and all of those things. And, we love our house, and we just wanted to sleep in my own bed. I kept saying, I haven't slept in my own bed since September 30th. So once we got home, it's just been a relief. I think we've sold my mother's home, and now we're making plans for the future. We're going to try to venture next year. As Donnie mentioned earlier, part of our dream, we've been to every ballpark except 5 in a major league ballpark. So Lori's going to try to venture out to San Diego next year. And so we're going to get her on a plane, and we're just going to live life, because that's what my parents would want me to do. They set that example years ago. They lived their life. And so, we're in a good place, I think.
Yeah. What about you, Donnie? What do you think about this change, and how has this affected you?
It alters. We talked about the other day where I still, hey, you know what? They're in town. Like, what, AC/DC? Oh, they were in town. Let's go. No, never mind. It's so I admit that I just have these little brain farts once in a while, and I realize that we can't really do that.
Yeah.
But having said that, I love my little sister. I mean, she's just sweet.
Oh, I love that you call her that. Yeah. It's so sweet.
So it's good. I mean, it's a challenge, but we're a team, and that's huge. And it's all the difference in the world that we're together. And now we're in our home. It's massive that we're in the house. And I think she enjoys it. I pick her up.
New.
Oh, it is. And I pick her up a lot. She's only 60 pounds. So, and I just think those little moments, she just gives you those looks like, it's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys said a clear purpose in life in your answer online. And I think that's could be true between Lindsay and I.
Yeah.
And it's a common theme,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think so.
Is caregiving, finding help, is that kind of the biggest struggle that you guys face right now?
It is. It's just not easy. I think you were upstairs when I was telling Brian that her primary caregiver is her original babysitter. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Chris is just a godsend. She's really like my older sister, but her first time with Lori was Halloween 1968.
Oh my
and
gosh.
She has provided care for Lori ever since that time. And so she comes every Wednesday. So, I look forward to Wednesdays, and she always been involved, but that's it. She's the emergency. There's just really no one. So that's been very challenging for, as you can imagine, many reasons, not just to give us a break, but, if I get sick or I'm in the hospital. So, but we're working on that, but it takes time.
Yeah, absolutely.
One step at a time. I'm glad you brought that up because we were in the haste of getting everything set up. But it's so cool that from 1968, she has the same original caregiver. That has to be one of your closest family friends.
Oh, yes.
How did that end up coming back around? Is they always been in the same city?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Yes, she's never really been out of the picture. She's helped in various capacities, sometimes more, sometimes less. She retired probably about 7 years ago. So when she was working, she wasn't as involved, but now she's retired. She has a full life, but she makes room for Lori every Wednesday. And then just as we need her, if she's available, like we have Ohio State tickets. So when we go to the game, she'll fill in. And if I'm with my daughter, like for the Nutcracker in December, she'll help Donnie, get Lori ready and feed her and make sure she's there. So yeah, it's great.
I'm just thinking as you're talking about kind of this struggle a lot of caregivers have of finding help because, our kids and loved ones really thrive on consistency. Yes. And it's hard to find somebody consistent that you don't have to retrain and train again. So since you are the primary caregivers, are there any routines or self-care, like have a cup of coffee by yourself in the morning? Are there any small things during the day that you guys find that kind of fill your cup again so you can press on?
Well, I get up an hour early for that reason. After I flush her tube, I have an hour to myself. I drink my coffee and have my quiet time and kind of think through the day. So that for me, that's huge because I feel like I'm just not jumping in. I can kind of get my thoughts rolling and then kind of slowly ease into the day. So I think that would be big for me.
How about you, Donnie?
I'm going for 12 hours a day at FedEx. So yeah. And my role, it's important, but it's to a lesser. I'm the helper. I call myself that. So yeah. And then I'm into old movies. So sometimes I'll just stay up when everybody goes to bed and I'll watch some 1950 black and white movie.
Something for you.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think you bring up a great element that people are still working full-time jobs and doing this too.
Yes.
So yeah, I just wanted to pick your brain on just little things that you find useful for yourself or maybe listeners to get some ideas too. Well, you mentioned, Tami, that you used to be a nurse. I wanted to ask you both because I think all jobs sort of bring these unique traits to caregiving. Is there anything from your professional life that you have brought in that's helpful for your new role as caregivers?
Well, fortunately, having worked in the medical system, I know how it works. And so that is very helpful. When I need something, I know who to go to. So that is helpful, how the system works, what orders you need for certain things. So I think that is helpful. Plus, I'm kind of like a take charge kind of person. So that has helped as well, I think.
I love it.
Yeah.
How about you, Donnie? Anything in your professional life that's been useful?
Well, I maybe just the fact that my whole life, like a lot of people, I'm not the only one. I've worked hard and I commit to things. So, I guess I'm not shying away from anything. So it helps to obviously have a relationship with her, but yeah, and it just helps me. It gives me a sense of when I go off to work, I know things happen, but I feel very confident, very comfortable, because I know what she's capable of.
One thing I can think of that your job prepares you for is all the packages that we get delivered to the house, because he's great at,
It's crazy.
And Lori supplies, and he's a great organizer, and so that does.
I pack trucks at work. Do I get no? Yeah, it's we get a lot of stuff.
The diapers,
yes,
and the feed, and
yes.
the tubes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's you'd never think about it until it happens at your house, right?
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
And now, because obviously with selling your mom's house, we have our garages, which, the area, I won't say the area that I deliver to, but a lot of folks' garages look like this. Their car has no shot at going in their garage. And right now ours it's just packed. And it just really, it bugs me.
We were fortunate enough to finish our basement, and the designer that was helping us was like, how much storage space do you need? And I was like, a lot.
Yeah.
Go bigger, right? And they couldn't believe it. And I was like,
Yeah.
no, all this equipment, all this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of all the stuff. So I know what my answer is. For Ava, it's her sunglasses. Like for me, that's the thing. But what is something in your daily bag, your bag that you take out with you, your daily carry that you have to have or you couldn't live without?
Well, for Lori, it's her headphones and lots of 70 music. I have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of albums on my phone of Phil Collins, Elton John, Chicago, Barry Manilow, the Bee Gees, Whitney Houston. So
She has great taste.
yeah.
All,
Donnie doesn't think so, but
Some of those.
you want to listen to some of Ava's music?
Yeah. A lot of Lori Berkner Band right now. It's a kids.
I was going to say
kids album.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah. Word Party, not my thing.
Yeah. Well, this kind of leads me into my next question about what your superpower has become. One of our last guests mentioned she can tune things out.
Yeah.
So some of the music that we don't all appreciate.
Yeah.
She can do that. But for you guys, it seems like you are like a power couple that have just like sort of figured it out how to be each other's teammate. And I think that's awesome. But you both probably bring some kind of superpower to this life. So I wanted to ask, what do you guys determine as your superpower?
Mine is perseverance. I am determined, and I've always been that way, but I try not to waste a lot of time in what could be. I'm just determined this needs to be done. This is what we have, and we're just going to power through it. And we do. We just find ways to make things work. And so I think that's probably mine.
I love it.
Yeah.
Patience. I'm just an ultra patient person, and things are much slower with Lori, but I've always been that way. Even it makes me think of years ago when she did walk. I just thought of this. I would take her to school, and then it flowed because at the time I worked in the evening. And then, so I would take her, and it would just be her and me, and I had a little Ranger pickup truck. And it was just, I loved it because it was slow. I prefer that. And we'd listen to music, and she reminded me, I'd forgotten that I did this, but I would take little Post-it notes, and then every time she reacted to a song, I'd write it.
While he was driving.
Oh my goodness.
But don't. That's not true, FedEx. So yeah, but it just, and I still have those songs.
Yeah.
So I have them all. But it's a calming thing, if that makes sense, if I'm saying it right. Yeah, I guess that would be the one thing that I can do. I can be relaxed and patient.
I feel like we could do 4 or 5 different podcasts with you guys with
Yes.
40 years together with you, 58 with her, and then the transition.
Yeah.
I just feel like there's not even enough time to go through it all.
Yeah,
But
there's a
everything
lot.
you guys have shared has been so wonderful. And
Yeah.
I think it helps all of us. It certainly helps Lindsay and I, but everyone out there listening, I hope it was able to give some semblance and view into what the transition may look like, or if you haven't thought about it, maybe starting to have those difficult conversations. So thank you guys for coming on and talking about
Absolutely.
this. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for your time. We know how precious it is. So
Yep.
That was
And
fun.
if anyone out there is listening and you guys have a story to tell that you'd like to come on, please email us at admin@therareremix.com. Thank you guys for coming on. And
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. And we look forward to seeing you guys listen to the next podcast soon.